John chapter 3. So you're definitely going to recognize some things whenever you read through John chapter 3. John chapter 3 is just full of so many amazing truths. It's full of just beautiful theology. It's just an amazing chapter. And like I said, you're definitely going to remember some things as you read through it, because this is where we get the most famous scripture in all of the Bible, John 3:16. But John 3:16 kind of comes on the heels of this conversation that Jesus has with a man named Nicodemus. Nicodemus is a Pharisee. That just means that he's a ruler of the religious system in Israel at the time. He's a very educated man. Remember, the Pharisees, these are going to be the ones that are they're the ones that are always trying to trip up Jesus, trying to prove that they're smarter than Jesus, and it never works out for them. But we have one of their own, an actual Pharisee, meeting with Jesus. And it's very important to note how this meeting happens. It says that Jesus and Nicodemus, they meet at nighttime. This is because Nicodemus, he recognizes that meeting with Jesus, it could be detrimental to his career. It could be detrimental to his position in society. So he meets with Jesus at night, and he has this amazing conversation with Jesus about salvation and what it means to be born again. But again, it's very important to note that the meeting happens at nighttime. We're going to see that later on in the gospel accounts, we're going to see that Nicodemus is no longer ashamed or afraid to meet at night, but he is actually going to be publicly declaring and professing his faith. But right now, this nighttime meeting has this amazing encounter with Jesus. And there's some things to just be aware of. In this text, you could do some supplemental reading if you wanted to. You could go back to Numbers chapter 21 and read verses 4 through 9, because Jesus references this Old Testament encounter that we see in Numbers chapter 21. Because Jesus tells Nicodemus that if you want to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, that you must be born again. And you know, if you've been in church for a long time, if you've gone to church, experienced the gospel, then you've probably heard this phrase, born again, before. This is probably not something new to you. But when Jesus said this to Nicodemus, this was radical. That's why Nicodemus is very confused. He's like, I'm an old man. How am I supposed to be born again? Am I supposed to go back into my mother's womb and be born again? This doesn't make sense, Jesus. And Jesus, he talks to Nicodemus and he says, aren't you a teacher of Israel? How do you not know these things? And he references Nicodemus all the way back to this encounter in the book of Numbers, where you have the children of Israel who've escaped from slavery, and they are marching toward the promised land. And there's this encounter where the children of Israel are sinful. That is a recurring theme throughout their history, that they will do well and then they mess up. They're close to God and then they sin. And if that sounds like your life, guess what? There's grace for you too, right? I mean, we're all there. Like we've got those days where things are going great and then we mess up. We take 4 steps forward and 3 steps back, right? I get it, right? And this is what Jesus is trying to help us get past. He's trying to get us past that cycle of just sin, backslide, approach Jesus, repeat, right? He wants us to just be focused on him. And Jesus references this encounter again. Israel has been, they've been complaining. There is sin in their lives. And the encounter is that these fiery serpents come into the camp and they're biting people, and people are dying. And the people are like, Moses, we don't know what to do. Please pray that God would get rid of these serpents so that we will stop dying. And Moses petitions God, and this is what God tells Moses to do. He says, if you'll make a bronze serpent and you'll put it on a pole and lift up this bronze serpent, all that these people have to do is look at the serpent and they will be fine. And again, in one of the conversations I had yesterday about these groups that we're doing, which we're encouraging you to be a part of, that was one of the things that we talked about. I was like, how often do we try to fix things on our own? And I imagine, if this happened, if snakes are biting people, probably our first thought is, where's the tourniquet, right? What do we have to do? Let's stop the bleeding. Let's figure out where the anti-venom is, and let's move forward. Right? Like, we're going to fix this problem. But our first step should always be, let's look to Jesus, right? And that's what Jesus is saying. He gives this reference to this bronze serpent in the wilderness. And Jesus said, just like whenever you looked at the bronze serpent, or the children of Israel looked at the bronze serpent in the wilderness and they were healed, he said, so is the case now. He said that I am going to be lifted up, and that all you have to do is look to me and you will be set free. And what we learn by this is, the problem with the children of Israel in Numbers chapter 21 is that they had a poison on the inside of them. That's very important. The poison is on the inside. The same thing with all of us. If you are struggling with sin, the poison is on the inside. No amount of external work is going to fix the problem of the poison of sin in your heart. Like if you've got sin in your life, changing the way that you dress cannot fix that. If you've got sin in your life, stopping going to the club, it's going to help, but that doesn't fix it, right? If you've got sin inside of your heart, no amount of external things that you'll do will fix that. You need something. Again, if you've got cancer, what is the solution? Well, it's not a Band-Aid. It's not put some Neosporin on it, right? There is a problem inside of you, and it requires internal medicine. Chemotherapy, they're going to run this chemo inside of your body to address the problem inside of you. If there's a tumor inside of you, they're going to go inside of you and cut it out. So the sin problem is on the inside. So outside things cannot fix the inside problem. That's what Jesus says to the Pharisees, the same kind of people that Nicodemus is. He says, you guys look great on the outside. You look like if we're just basing this on the outward appearance, you guys are crushing it. Right? They knew the word of God. They dressed right. They stood right. They were pious. People looked at them as the ultimate example of what it meant to be righteous. And Jesus says, if that's the case, if we're just basing it on outside appearances, you guys have crushed it. But Jesus says that's not the case. He said, you look good on the outside, but inside you're full of dead men's bones. I love this example. I share it with you guys all the time. But, I love cereal. Do you love cereal as much as I do? I love cereal. And one of my favorite cereals is Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. And, I'll pour me a bowl of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. I'm going to, and you got a little window, right? If you eat it too fast, it's like razor blades and it'll destroy the inside of your mouth. But if you wait too long, it turns into mush. So you got a little window where you got to eat it where it's just right. And then after you finish that, you're going to drink the bowl of milk because, all the sugar mixes in with milk. It's great. Then what do? You take the bowl and you go put it in the sink. Now, if you want more cereal, you're going to have to wash the bowl. Let's say that you come over after I've already had a bowl of cereal and you see my box of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. You're like, oh man, I haven't had Frosted Flakes in years. Hey, I'll pour you a bowl. I go get the bowl and I clean it. I get my dish sponge, my dishcloth, whatever, get soap all over it, and I clean the outside of the bowl. I'm just cleaning the outside of the bowl so much. Right, it's shining on the outside. And then I get ready to pour the bowl of cereal, and you're going to say, wait, what are you doing? I'm about to make you some cereal. Yeah, but you didn't clean the bowl. And I was like, yeah, I did. Didn't you see me? Right, you saw it. You saw me clean the bowl. It's like, yeah, but you only cleaned the outside. What's on the inside? You're going to have bits of Frosted Flakes that have adhered to the side of the bowl that it's now, after it's been sitting and it's dried, it's like super glue. And it's going to take a chisel to get that stuff off. You can't just clean the outside. You have to clean the inside too. And that's what Jesus is trying to show Nicodemus, is that the problem with sin is an inside thing, that no amount of outside work can fix it. That the only thing we can do is we can look to Jesus. So just like the serpent was lifted up in the Old Testament, Jesus is going to be lifted up. That's what he's speaking of, that he's going to be lifted up on a cross. He's going to stretch out his arms and he's going to say, it is finished. And we have to look to him and nothing else to have this sin problem corrected in our lives. The only way to fix it is by looking to Jesus. No amount of outside sin management can fix the problem. Only Jesus can fix the internal sin problem that we're dealing with. The chapter goes on, and we see an encounter with John the Baptist where John is baptizing people, but Jesus is baptizing people also. And they're like, hey, John, what's going on? These our people are going to Jesus. They're not coming to us anymore. What are we going to do about it? And John's like, hey, I've already told you I'm not the Messiah. That's not what this is about. It is about pointing people to Jesus. And again, I love what we see in the life of John the Baptist, that everything that he does is to point people to Jesus. That's what we're supposed to be about. And he, in verse 30, he shares one of my favorite verses. It should be a prayer for every single one of us. And he says, I must decrease, he must increase. And that should be a prayer, Lord, less of me and more of you, because our lives are supposed to point people to the one who took care of that internal sin problem, the cancer of sin that he removed. We should be pointing people to him. I love you guys. Keep moving forward. Get in your groups. Discuss what you learned from today. What stood out to you? What challenged you? Where do you see you needing to grow based on the scriptures here? Get with your groups. Talk about it. Let's keep growing. Let's keep moving forward. Love you. God bless you. Let's change the world.